So this this month was the Compassionate Heart. What a wonderful song for that. What a beautiful song. The Compassionate Heart. And today's talk is Hearts and Minds. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with Arianna Huffington. She does the Huffington Post, and she's been around forever. Anyway, once Arianna Huffington said this. She said, "We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll screw up royally sometimes. Understanding that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success." Oh, yeah, you hear that? Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. You know, we are just a bundle of stuff. Emotions and feelings and thoughts and fears and hopes and dreams. We're just a big old bundle of things, and sometimes all about one issue. Conflicting emotions and thoughts and feelings, and strong and weak, and we're just a whole big package of all of it. You know, welcome to being human. Welcome to being human. And the truth is, we have infinite choices. You know, there isn't only one right thing for you to do. There's not only one right path for you to take. There's not only one decision, one right decision that you should have made and didn't. There are infinite choices. There are infinite possibilities. I love that. The one thing to understand is that failure is not the opposite of success, that it is an integral part of it. The fact is, if we don't try, then it's almost like a death of sorts. Because what we're saying is we're choosing not to grow in that area. It means we're refusing to grow where we don't try. You know, I think, who was it? Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, right? That said you must do that thing that you think you cannot do. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm not sure. But that is what we do when we grow. That is our growing edge. We must do the thing that scares us in order to grow past it. That's how we grow. That is how we grow, is to live on that edge of, I don't think I can. Well, but you can, because you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you grow into being that thing that you're so terrified of. So what is that scares us? I mean, what is it that causes all that grief and aggravation? What is all this stuff that holds us back? What are all those things, those limiting feelings and emotions and conflicting things that come up with us, you know, the inside of us? It's hearts and minds. It's hearts and minds. It's our thoughts and our emotions. Our head and our heart are sometimes in such conflict with each other on any one subject that we get stuck. We get stuck. And then what happens, right? Our heart is saying one thing. Our head is saying something else. Our head is saying something else. Our heart is saying something else. And who wins out? Who wins? Hearts or minds? Logic or emotion? Vulcan or human? We have Trekkies in the group. I love that. So who wins, right? You know, live long and prosper, all that stuff. Well, Ernest Holmes said that love points the way. Love points the way, and law makes the way possible. And that's truth. All of the logic in the world will not get us there. All the logic in the world will not get us there. There is a point at which the heart must carry us the rest of the way. You know, our form of prayer, what we call affirmative prayer, the way Ernest Holmes taught it, he said, there is the technique and there is the fire. Those are the two parts of affirmative prayer, the technique and the fire. He said the technique we can teach to anyone. We call it the 5 steps of affirmative prayer, right? Recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release. The 5 steps we can teach to anyone. That's the technique. The fire we have to bring to it. The fire is the feeling, is the emotion part of it. The part that understands, that feels. That is the dynamic part of affirmative prayer. That is what pushes the law into action, into creation. We can use words when we are in prayer because the words are representations, they're symbols of things that we're thinking of, that we think we want, that we think we desire. They're words, they're logic, they're all in our head. It is the feeling level that pushes the law into action. The intellect doesn't move the law, the feeling does. So we call upon that feeling to know it, to sense it, to see it, to smell it, to be it. And that is what moves the affirmative prayer into that action. Prayer is a thing of feeling. And it is that emotional element. It is the heart that takes us the rest of the way. Ernest Holmes, in this thing called You, said, he said, "You are made perfect in the law when you enter into conscious communion with love. Love is the fulfillment of the law. That is, it is only through love that law can fulfill itself in your experience. Because love harmonizes everything. It flows through everything. You can never make the most perfect use of law in your life unless you are motivated by love." Ernest Holmes said, effective affirmative prayer is part technique, part fire. And the fire is the emotion. It is the feeling we bring to prayer. It is the idea that it is already done in the mind of God. When we pray, not seeing, we pray not having that manifestation in the physical world, but we pray knowing it is already done in the mind of God. So much so that as we pray, we feel it. We feel it. It sets up a vibration in our bodies. We know it. We can taste it. We can smell it. We can see it. Already done. So done that we actually experience it in our bodies. And so the words set the stage for us. The words are the thing of the intellect. I love it. But it sets the stage for the emotions that make it real for us, that make it a visceral experience, that create the feelingness of it. And that's why it is so important to bring balance into our lives. The balance between the logic and the emotion, the balance between the head and the heart, the balance between the heart and the mind. It's so important that we have balance there because we are both and. We are both and. We are logic and emotion. We are love and law within ourselves because we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We are the individualization of the universal. We are the individualization of spirit. So as God is triune in nature, spirit, soul, and body, so are we, spirit, soul, and body, love, law, and manifestation. We are that which God is. So it works the same way with us that it does with God. We are love and law. We are emotion and logic. But what we must understand about this is that law is the effect. Law is the effect. Love is the cause. And when they say pray from cause, Ernest Holmes always told us, pray from cause. Then we're talking about love. Because law is the effect. Law waits on our welcome. Law waits for direction. It does nothing on its own. It waits for us to speak the word. And the word is love. God is love. That is why love points the way. Love points the way. Love is cause. Love points the way and law responds. It is the servant of love. And so law begins to work. Law makes the way happen. Law is an effect. It is an outpicturing of what we have said in love. We're both of that. However, where the heart is the domain of emotions and feelings, our mind, our personal use of that universal mind is the seat of logic and reason, and those thoughts that we have that are meant to keep us alive and keep us safe, keep us separate from others too. Those thoughts we have can keep us separate and separated from others. You know, Buddha said, in separateness lies the world's great misery. In compassion lies the world's great strength. So sometimes those thoughts we have, those ego selves, God love them, those ego selves that we have can set up camp in our mind. And they seek to protect us, and they seek to shelter us and keep us safe from all kinds of dangers, real or imagined. Because that's what our minds do. Our minds imagine all kinds of things. You know, our thoughts go all over the place, don't they? From thoughts of love to thoughts of fear to thoughts of trouble to thoughts of limitation to thoughts of abundance. I mean, we're all over the map, and we can do that all in 1 minute. Our heart brings us back to what's true, to what's real. Prayer brings us back to what's true and what's real. Annie Lamott just has a new book out called, what the heck's it called? Help, Thanks, Wow. Have you read that one? It's her latest. It's really cute. Anyway, she says in her book, more than anything, prayer helps me get my sense of humor back. It brings me back to my heart from the treacherous swamp of my mind. And isn't that the truth? Because our mind is all over the place. You know, our mind is influenced, our thoughts are influenced by the voice of the world. And the voice of the world, for God's sakes, will tell you things suck. You know, the voice of the world, the Chicken Little talk, the sky is falling stuff. There's not enough. It's too late. Everything's going to hell. We're screwed. You know, all that kind of stuff, that's all the voice of the world, and that's all that it tells us. It's too late. It's too late. Everything's going wrong. Nothing's going right. The economy's going to hell. Everything's bad. And that's what the voice of the world is telling us. And so our thoughts go there. So our thoughts will sway violently from one end of the spectrum to the other. It's great, it's terrible, it's good. Oh my God, how am I going to pay that bill? But God is abundance, but I don't know. And we go back and forth, and we go all over the place. And it's not until we withdraw that energy from our minds and go to the heart space and know God is love. God is love and infinite goodness. You know, we can think whatever we want, but we don't have to believe everything we think. The last book that Debbie Ford published was called Courage, Overcoming Fear and Igniting Self-Confidence. And she said this. She said, after writing 8 books, and watching people transform miraculously in short periods of time, I've come to understand it's not the knowing of our intellectual minds that move us forward and give us more confidence and courage. Rather, it's the actual process of transformation, of moving from the head to the heart, that changes the way we feel, the way we act, the way we see, and the way we view reality. Our minds only take us so far. And sometimes our minds take us in the opposite direction. Sometimes our minds just mess things up for us. Will scare us with all kinds of stuff. The transformational work is moving from the head to the heart, getting out of the logic, the logical mind that says, you know, the bottom line, well, we can't afford it, well, there's not enough, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And moving into our head, moving into our heart, which knows love. It knows love. And this is where we make the changes in our lives. We make them in our hearts. We know the truth in our hearts. We know truth when we hear it. You know, we know. This, you know, the sequestration talks, you know, about we don't have enough money to feed people, but we have enough money to buy bombs. Bull crap, you know. We know this is not true. See, I cleaned it up. We know in our hearts we can feed hungry people. We know in our hearts that feeding people and housing people and clothing people is more important than killing people. We know the right thing. And we know there's a way to do it. And we may not know the bottom line and the facts and the figures and the numbers and all the stuff that they throw at us, but what we know is we can do the right thing. We know in our heart that we love people. You know, I have a Facebook page, and I found this other Facebook page that I loved, and I liked it, and now I get all kinds of stuff. But it's called Israel Loves Palestine. And there's another one that says, and there's another Facebook page that's called Iran Loves Israel. And it's people from those countries that just keep posting things on their Facebook page about how they love each other. And they hold up hearts, you know, Iran loves Israel, Israel loves Iran. And they're individual people that say, we love you, we don't want to kill you, our stupid governments do. How brilliant is that? How brilliant. That's what'll change the world, the heart. The heart will change the world, these feelings, these emotions. That's what's going to change the world, not all the logic in the world. All the logic in the world is in Washington, D.C., and where's that gotten us? Please, don't even get me started. Which brings me to the Serenity Prayer. We all know the Serenity Prayer, right? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When you think about that, you think about feelings. You think about feelings, emotions, and then thoughts, right? Serenity, courage, wisdom, feeling, thoughts. The Serenity Prayer, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And in Annie Lamott's book, she went on to say, and you know, there's only 3 things you cannot change. There's only 3 things you cannot change. The past, the truth, and other people. I hate that part. I truly do. They're wrong, baby. Enough prayer, we can change them too. So the work we're doing is always inside of us. It's always inside of us. We change. We drop from the head to the heart. We get out of the logical mind because you know where your butt resides? In your head. It does, because every time you're thinking of doing something, what do you say? Oh yeah, but, right? Yeah, but, I want to go into the art field. Oh yeah, but, you know what I think I can do? I think I can go back to school. Yeah, but, these are your thoughts. These are what your thoughts do. So the work we have to do is to go within and to move from the head, to move from the logic, the stuff that's limiting us and holding us back, to move into the heart. We create a different self. When we create a different self, we create a different surrounding. When we create a different surrounding, we create a different world. It all starts with our heart. It all starts with our heart space. And Debbie Ford, in that last book she wrote, Courage, she said this: although we know that all of our experiences are ultimately trying to lead us to open up and love, this is the conclusion we must finally reach with our hearts, not our heads. When we are holding on to any grudge, any resentment, any anger, any blame, any guilt, any regret, any judgment, any bitterness, any disappointment, any self-righteousness, any hate, or any revenge, it becomes a barrier between us and our own loving hearts. It's a big list. A lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff to think about. Guilt, blame, self-righteousness, disappointment, regret, judgment. Those are all the things that keep us from our own loving heart. When we are in our blame and our judgment, we're in our head. We're in our head. We might be thinking we're not, but we are. We're thinking from our humanness. We're thinking from that place, that little campsite that ego set up in our head that says we're not them. We're us. We're different. We're better. Or whatever. Or worse. Sometimes our self-talk is the worst thing in the world. But we're into blame and judgment and guilt and condemnation and revenge, when we're into all those things, we're not in our heart space. We're not in our heart, because God is love. God is love. And when we're seeing through the eyes of love, when we're seeing through the eyes of God, we're not seeing all that other stuff. We're not seeing the guilt. We're not seeing the revenge. We're not seeing the condemnation. We're not seeing any of that. When we see as God sees, all we see is love. Right? When we say that all the time, God is love. God is love. When we see as God sees, we see only love. In there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to forgive. Because there's no condemnation to begin with. There's only love. So the question is, where are we looking with contempt? Where are we looking with judgment? Where are we looking with hatred? And sometimes it starts right in here with ourselves. Starting with ourselves, because there is a lot of self-condemnation that goes on. There's a lot of self-talk that goes on a daily basis that is not uplifting, that is not positive, that is not life-affirming. There is a lot of talk that goes on in your head that just beats us up. And we need to get over it. We need to get over it. And all those phrases. I don't have to repeat them. There's tons of them. I know that you know all of them probably, and maybe some I don't know, I screwed up. I'm not worth it. I'm so dumb. I'm whatever. I can't do it. Just think about all that stuff. There's tons of them. I'm sure you've got a litany in your own head of all the ways that you beat yourself up. We're thinking from our humanness when we're doing that. We are not dropping down. That, what do they always say, the longest journey you ever take is the 18 inches from the head to the heart. You're not dropping down into your heart space. And that's where we need to be. There's nothing to blame. There's nothing to forgive. There is nothing to regret. There is nothing to resent. There is only love. God is love, and we are that. God is love, and we are that. So at the end of her book, she had a little process that she called the loving heart process. And she said this: one of the things that we can do is to eavesdrop on our negative self-talk. Listen in on it. Really listen in on what you're saying, because a lot of that stuff is old tapes. Just keeps going around. It automatically pops up. If you're embarrassed, or if you're late, or if things didn't turn out the way you expected, or if you had an unforeseen event, listen to that self-talk. Remember it. Write it down. Record it. Look at it for the false belief that it is, because it is a false belief. And then she said, from there, make a list of the costs of self-loathing. What are the costs to us for our self-loathing? What do we stop doing? What do we not even try to do? Because our negative self-talk tells us we can't, or we shouldn't, or we can't, or we won't, or we're not tall enough, or we're not old enough, or we don't have enough credits, or we don't have that degree, or we're overqualified, or whatever it is. What are the costs? How does all of that negative talk cost us in energy, in courage? What does it cost us in passion? What does it cost us in love? And to write a list. Write a list of the costs that your self-loathing is costing you. And then she said the third thing to do is to apologize. Make amends. I love that. Make amends. Apologize to your own wounded self. Before you even go outside and make amends to others, make amends to yourself. Apologize to the wounded person within you. Apologize to that person you've beat up over the years. I love that. There's a Louise Hay, I think, said, you've criticized yourself your whole life, and look where it's gotten you. How about trying some self-appreciation? See what that does. So that's what Debbie Ford is talking about. Apologize to your wounded self. Make amends. And then she said, begin a daily practice of loving that self. Replacing the negative self-talk with positive self-talk. What can you say? What can you say on a daily basis about how you love yourself and how you value your body and how it's carried you around all through life? God, we're so good at hating ourselves, right? Oh, I can't stand my hair. I hate my eye. It's like we all have these parts that we complain about, right? What would it be like to say, wow, I love my body, this vehicle that has gotten me around through life all this time. I love every inch of myself. And really replace the negative self-talk with some positive affirmations about your beauty, because you're beautiful. It's a quality of God. It's a quality of you. You can't get away from it. You're beautiful. God is beauty. It's a quality of God. It is a quality of us because we are that. We are wisdom. God is wisdom. The quality of God known as wisdom is us. We are wise. We are wise beyond measure. We're abundance. We are balance. We are balance. We don't have to look for it or go any place for it or read a book to get it. We are balance. It's a quality of God. It exists within us. We have to just love it and appreciate it. So make a list. That was her next step. Make a list of all your positives. Do it all the time, whenever you just are tempted to forget. Whenever the least bit of temptation arises in you to criticize yourself. Remember who you are. You're an outpicturing of God. God doesn't make junk. You're an outpicturing of the divine, perfect and whole and complete. And all of those qualities of God are qualities of you. They exist within you. And then finally, she said, make a list. Make a completion list. I like this. Make a completion list of anything you need to do in order to complete with your past. For God's sakes, aren't you done with it? It's so boring. What is that thing? What are the three things that smell? What are the three things that begin to stink after 3 days? Fish, house guests, and your story. Your story stinks. Get over it. Let's be done with it. Stop carting it around. Ernest Holmes said, we carry the past around with us like a rotting corpse on our backs. Man, if that doesn't really convince you to put it down, nothing else will. What a picture. Be done. And whatever you need to do to complete with your past and be done with it and be reborn in the present moment, whatever that is, do it. Do it now. Don't put it off. So make the list of completion. She said a completion list of anything you need to do to complete with your past so you can be done with it. And she said this. She said, to claim your purpose is the great journey of your lifetime. It is the journey that takes you from remembering to knowing, that leads you from your head to your heart. The courageous warrior within you, the one who has fought the gravitational pull of shame and hurt and hopelessness and despair. That courageous warrior within you is the keeper of your divine confidence. And it will help you claim your most holy reason for being. And that's what I invite you to do today. That's what I invite you to do this week. Write down all the reasons that have been holding you back and burn them. Tear them up. Make peace with your past and let it go, finally. Drop it. Drop it like a 10-ton granite stone you've been carrying around with you. And free yourself into this present moment and live from your heart because you are love, because God is love, because we are love. That is the truth of us. That is the truth of each and every one of us here, and we know we are. We know in our hearts that is our truth. Thank you so much.